Welcome to the Hockey Huddle, the ultimate podcast for hockey fans by hockey fans, where we break down the latest on and off ice from power plays to game-changing trades. Whether you're a diehard fan or new to the sport, we've got all the action, analysis, and hot takes you'll need to stay in the game. We'll bring you exclusive interviews with other fans, weekly breakdowns, and everything you need to know from the NHL and beyond. So lace up your skates, grab your stick, and let's drop the puck on today's episode of the Hockey Huddle. Hey, well, here we are, episode number 5 of the Hockey Huddle, and really excited to be back with everybody. We are going to cover a few things on the pod today. First thing is we're going to talk about the Leafs and the Bruins game. Some exciting hockey that happened the other day. I'm going to talk about the Flames and the Canadiens game. And then we're going to talk about something controversial with Hockey Night in Canada and a bit of an exchange between Jen Botterill and Kevin Bieksa. And I think we're going to have a pretty good conversation about that one. And then I think the last thing we'll talk about today is how to connect with us on social media. We've got TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube going on. And we've already heard from a few fans. We've heard some comments, and we love to hear that. So we definitely want to engage with fans of hockey and hear what you have to say, and we want to hear your comments and your topics, and then we can chat about that and invite some people on the pod and just chat about hockey and just snap it around a little bit. Without any further ado, Jay, big game, Toronto versus Boston. What did you think of that game?
Well, you know what? Every time there's a Boston-Toronto game, it's like they're our biggest nemesis. We want to make sure we pound them in the dirt. And the last 8 games previous to this game, we were 0 wins, 4 losses, 4 overtime losses. So we needed something to happen. And a weird thing happened, just so you guys know. Let's talk a little bit about this. So the last 2 times the Leafs have played without Auston Matthews, the last time previous to last night's game was December 16th, 2023, when we played the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the Leafs won that game 7-0. This time, the Leafs played the Boston Bruins, and we beat them 4-0. I think there might be something we need to look at with Auston Matthews not in the lineup, Rick. What do you think?
Well, I think there's, I hate to say it, but the team plays better as a team, it seems, when he's out of the lineup. It's all about the Leafs winning, and it's all about the Leafs getting to the cup, and whatever it takes to get there is what's most important. And having Matthews out of the lineup was interesting because you look at the power play, 3 for 7 on the power play, and no Matthews. And where do the teams go? The teams go to Matthews because they know he's going to be making the shot. And when you don't know where the shots are coming from or who's taking the chance at the net, it changes the dynamic a little bit when you're on the PK. And the power play certainly looked a lot better, especially in the drought that they've been in. So interesting to see Matthews out of the lineup. And, it kind of gave me pause. And every time that Matthews has been out of the lineup, the teams kind of rose to the occasion. I think of Max Domi rising to the occasion when Matthews was out last year, and think about the team and the wins that they put up and the effort they've put in. And, I don't know, is there something there? Is there fire where there is smoke? When Matthews isn't there, the team's playing a bit better.
And we kind of talked a little bit about this offline, was if you were to trade Auston Matthews, and I'm not saying that that's what I want to do, but if you were to trade Auston Matthews, what could you get for him? So one of the things or schools of thought that we had was, could you trade Auston Matthews to the Chicago Blackhawks for 5 first-round draft picks? 1, would the Leafs do that? 2, would the Hawks do it? Now, if I'm the Hawks, I'm saying yeah all day long because I've got Connor Bedard, right? And now I've got Auston Matthews who's going to be there, who could be fed the puck from Connor Bedard. And I think that would turn that Chicago franchise right around because they are awful. They're so awful that Connor Bedard last year was a -44, like the worst all-time first-round draft pick to ever slap on the skates. He was the worst of all times.
Yikes.
We went back to like 2009 and saw that, yep, -44, he wins. So maybe the Blackhawks do that. Do you think the Blackhawks make that trade?
It depends on the situation. So you can afford them if you're the Blackhawks, so they're in no cap trouble whatsoever. So having Auston Matthews on the team definitely makes them better. Doesn't make them a contender and doesn't make them worth trading 5 first-round picks. Potentially. Is that the value for Auston Matthews right now? If I think of the past Stanley Cup winners, it's a goalie. And having that elite level goalie in between the pipes or somebody performing at that elite level, that's what you need. And I don't know that 5 first-round picks gets the job done for me. I think if I reflect a little bit on our conversation, it's got to be a goalie, it's got to be a forward, it's got to be a prospect, and it's got to be some potential in the cupboard. Because for the first 4 episodes, I've told everybody the Leafs have some of the worst prospect depth in the entirety of the NHL. We need some prospect depth. So could you build some of that prospect depth and get a goalie and shore up the team effort and that grit and that nastiness in the team? Potentially. It might be something you could do. Now, I don't think I'm advocating for trading Auston Matthews because he is arguably the greatest goal scorer of our NHL today. So today's NHL, Auston Matthews is probably the best goal scorer out there. Yeah, Nikita Kucherov's out there. Yeah, Alex Ovechkin's out there. Yeah, McDavid's out there. I don't know. I'd say Matthews arguably is the best one of the bunch. Could you, in good conscience, trade that away for the future of your franchise? So you trade away the future, or you trade away for the future, for the betterment of the team 10 years from now. Is that a thing? I don't know.
Possibly. I just can't see. I can't do it as a Leaf fan. Finally, we got the premier player, first overall. And when you were naming off all those other great players, like goal scorers like Ovechkin, McDavid, Kucherov, one thing that those players do not have that Auston Matthews has is a full 200-foot game. Auston Matthews plays defense. He plays defensive zone. He's killing penalties now, power play specialist like the other guys are, but he plays defense. He's the most well-rounded player, and he scores the most goals. So to give up on something like that, oh my gosh, there's no way. That sort of kind of reminds me of the Toronto Maple Leafs trying to get a goalie and saying, hey, we got this guy named Tuukka Rask. Let's trade him to Boston because we got this kid Pogge that's just as good. And maybe we can get Andrew Raycroft in here because, he was feeling bad about himself a little bit and he lost his confidence. But we can restore that. That's not a problem. What?
Hindsight
no way.
being such 2020. My God, what a foul up on the Leafs' part. Like, my God, Tuukka Rask could have been the goalie for 7 or 8 years. No, we went in a different direction.
And that's
why
you mentioned Go ahead.
You mentioned Auston Matthews in a 200-foot game, and there's another guy who had a great 200-foot game, and I think he still does have a great 200-foot game, and that's my friend John Tavares. And I say my friend John and I have been friends for some time now. I would even argue that we are best friends. And we were talking the other day about just the 200-foot game, and I was reminiscing about our time together in the summer, and I have a photo to show you, and look at this. Here's the photo of John and I together at Boots and Hearts. Don't we look good? And I've got a bunch of other photos that we're going to share with you over the episodes in the pod. But this is the kind of the photo that started it all and started our lifelong friendship. We talk almost every day on the phone, and it's John asks for advice. I share some tips and tricks with him, and we have him over to the house sometimes, play some mini sticks in the basement and show him some things, and just trying to help him out, being a good friend.
Obviously. Now, speaking of John Tavares, what's up with the New York Islander fans? I mean, we haven't discussed this before, but with him leaving the Islanders, these guys went batshit crazy. They still, to this day, when he goes in there, they boo him like crazy. It's unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, I understand that if you're a player and a captain for that team, that you're disappointed that the guy left, but get over it, right? Like, what's up with these New York fans? Like, come on. The guy wants to go back home to where, he's from Oakville, just outside of Toronto. There's obvious pictures of him in his Toronto Maple Leaf PJs. That's probably wears when he sleeps at your house, right, Rick?
Same ones.
Right?
Same PJs,
obviously.
Yep.
But what is up with these guys? Crazy. New York Islander fans. Crazy, crazy, crazy.
Yeah, get over it. It's been years. Why are you giving this guy grief? And I think, I kind of get it. There is a bit of controversy about how he left, and he said, hey, I want to be an Islanders fan, or I want to be a New York Islander, and my family's going to stay here. And then, he had an opportunity to go play for Toronto and sign a big contract and maybe take on the most prestigious role in the NHL, which is to be the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I think being the 25th captain of maybe the most storied franchise in the NHL, it's kind of hard to say no to that. And, going home, obviously you're going to face a lot of media pressure in Toronto, and you're going to face a lot of questions. But I think he is the character of a great NHL captain. And I know from personal experience, he's an enjoyer of great music. He has great taste in music too.
There you go, buddy. So, I mean, speaking of John Tavares, he was kind of quiet in that game, the Boston-Toronto game last night. Yeah. The other person that was quiet was Connor Timmins, but Connor Timmins was quiet in a good way. This guy, just so you guys know, I have a huge love-in for Connor Timmins. He was born in St. Catharines. I'm podcasting right now from St. Catharines. He grew up in Thorold, which is a small city just outside of St. Catharines. His family has a business in the area, which is the best deli and meats place in all of the Niagara region. And this guy, you see him, right now he's playing 5-6 on the D pairings, but he's finally given a chance. The most games he's ever played in an NHL season was with Colorado in 2020 when he was originally drafted. He played 31 games. That's it. With the Leafs, he's played 25 games last year, and the previous year played 25 games. He was never given a shot. Now with Craig Berube as the new coach, he's been given a new lease on life, and we've been able to see what he's doing. He gets that puck first pass out, amazing all day long, super smart, doesn't try to do too much with the puck. Big kid, knows what to do with it. I think that he's a huge, huge surprise for the Leafs, and obviously a huge surprise to a lot of other people out there in the sports world. Rick and I have been talking about how great this guy's been for 2-3 years. He's the secret for us, the secret sauce, and now everybody else is starting to see the same thing.
Yeah, we've been talking about Connor Timmins probably since the beginning of last year, and talked about his zone exit and how he handles the puck and the puck movement. And like you said, it's nice to see him not on the score sheet, not being he's not a dash two. He's not, we're not worried about him with the puck. He's making good two-way plays. And the guy for me, he's a guy that should have been in the lineup for 82 games last year. So he played 25 games last year, but I think it was a missed opportunity. Well, the Leafs kind of juggled defensemen. We kind of went back and forth on Lil Jurgen. We kind of went back and forth on a couple different folks in the pairings. But it's an opportunity for us now this year to see what he can do. Give him 82 games. Let him play every game. Let's see what the guy's got. I think it's great. I think he moves the puck very well in a team that needs a defenseman to move the puck very well. You need to get up to those big forwards. You need to create some buzz up in the offensive zone, and he does all that. And he does it kind of quietly. He protects his zone, and he's a good defenseman as well. So I like the guy. I've liked the guy since last year. You and I have talked about this guy so many times, and all the good stuff he brings quietly. And I would say that he's probably one of my unsung heroes in the organization. So good for him. Good for him getting in the lineup every day. Looking forward to seeing what he's got. And, another guy that you and I have talked about is Matthew Knies. And you look at that game against Boston and Matthew Knies taking his position in front of the net and, making some tips and causing some ruckus. And he's a big body. And I really like what Matthew Knies has brought to the Leafs. And you look at his evolution and how he's become this. He's evolving as a player. And initially, you could see the talent and you could see the speed and you could see the size, and he couldn't quite harness it. And now he's starting to harness this. He's starting to harness this energy and the size and the skill. And I tell you, it's exciting times to see the future of this guy with Toronto, and he's definitely in the right spot in the top line.
Well, funny thing you brought up Matthew Knies there, because good friend of mine, Shane, we were watching the game, and Shane has sometimes these really amazing articulate ideas, and they come out of nowhere. For whatever reason, I'm not sure. We're watching the game, and Matthew Knies is in front of that, and he tips the puck in, and Shane just starts laughing. I go, "What are you laughing at, buddy?" He goes, "Matthew Knies looks like somebody very, very famous, like a famous character, a famous actor. Can you think of who he looks like?" And I was trying to think of who it was, and I couldn't. And then he told me.
Actor?
Yeah. Who do you think? Who do you think he looks like?
I don't know.
Did you want
Tom Cruise?
Not Tom Cruise, but should I share right now with everybody who we believe he looks like?
Who do you think? Okay, who does he look like?
Okay, ready? If you're drinking something, make sure you finish it, swallow, because you might spit it out when you hear this. Matthew Knies looks like Lord Farquaad from Shrek. And I'm telling you, there's a picture right now.
Oh my God.
There he is, Matthew Knies and Lord Farquaad. They look identical.
What the hell is going on?
Dude, I spit my drink out. He said it, and I had to pause the game because we were all laughing. We couldn't stop it. He definitely looks like Lord Farquaad.
My God.
Unbelievable. Huge fun.
Oh my God. That is uncanny how much they look alike. That is stunning. I think there's a little slight height difference. If I remember correctly, Lord Farquaad is about 3'9", and
right.
Matthew Knies is a little bit taller than that.
Yeah. They look the same when he's on the horse, right? When Lord Farquaad's on the horse, they look the same, right? Or maybe from the neck up. And when you look at that picture, man, I'm telling you right now, you're going to look at him and you're going to go, yeah, okay, I can see it.
So that jersey is, that's a nice jersey too. That's a good U.S. college jersey from Minnesota. That's pretty nice.
Right. And Lord Farquaad's wearing the red too, right? So you get that red, and red versus red, it really sets out their eyes, buddy.
Who looks like Shrek on the Leafs? Is there a player that looks like Shrek? You know what? I can think of somebody's mouth who looks like Shrek on the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I was thinking somebody's dad that looks like Shrek on the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Who's that?
Ty Domi. I
sorry. Disagree. No. I completely disagree. Ty Domi, if you're watching, I don't agree with that. And I'll share Jason's address with you later.
That's my gosh. Why did I say that? Was that out loud? I said that out loud, didn't I?
You did say that out loud.
Oh,
yeah.
my gosh.
Hey, it's said now. It's out there now.
That's true. Now, speaking of Domi, Max Domi had quite the game in that 4-0 rout, we'll call it, because Boston didn't score. He looked great. He didn't look like, a lot of times, we kind of talked about this before, like, because Matthews was in there, everybody was just playing their own game. They weren't looking for him. It was sort of like last year when everybody's trying to get him the 70th goal for the last 7 games. They were giving up all the scoring chances just to give it up to Matthews. Now, Matthews didn't ask for that. The team was just doing it. But what they need to do is just go out and play their own game. So it definitely shows that with that line, maybe you take Matthews off that line with Marner and Nyes, put Domi on there, and have Matthews go on a different line, drive a different line. And that should throw fits to all the other teams out there when they're trying to stop the Leafs.
Interesting idea, and I like that. I like the concept. I like John Tavares and Mitch Marner together. I think there's a great combo there, and they had some instant magic when they first came together on the team. I would love to see that back. Maybe that's the line. Maybe it's Nyes, Marner, and Tavares together. And then you've got Nylander, Matthews, and Domi. Is that the line? McMahon maybe on the line. I think that'd be a pretty great line as well. Lots of wheels, lots of talent in that line.
Hey, and I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up, that I think that when the Leafs do trade Nick Robertson, whether it be now or just before the trade deadline, I know who they're going to call up. It's obvious who they're going to call up. It's a gentleman by the name of Alexander Nylander. He's going to come up. He's got 5 goals, 2 assists in 7 games with the Marlies. I didn't bring it up because they've been on a 6-day break. They're playing tonight. They're playing Saturday night. So we'll see how he does tonight. But I'm telling you, man, it's destined for them to come. Rick and I have these conversations all the time. One of the conversations we had was about Connor Timmins making it, doing well in the Leafs. He's starting to do that. We also talked about a gentleman by the name of Josh Hosang, which if he would have stayed the course and he would have stayed with the organization, we believe he would have made the difference on the Leafs. But he made his own decision, went to the KHL, I believe, and then got injured. The other one that came to me was Alexander Nylander, and him and William will be playing this year together. And again, there's huge Tim Hortons points on this. So I can't wait to win this bet. I guess, would I win the bet right away when it happens, or do we got to wait till the end of the year? Like, how does that happen? When do you pay?
Yeah, so I'm not going to pay because you're not going to win. There is not a chance in hell that Alex and William are going to play together on the same line. Will not happen. It is unrealistic, and he's not even going to make the big club this year. He's not going to get a call up. It's not going to happen. That's it.
I'm telling you, Nylander asked for more ice time, and we saw what happened there. He got more ice time. So if Nylander asked for his brother to come up for a shot, and why would you not bring him up if he's the best one on the team? It makes sense. That's what I'm saying. All the stars are starting to align. The Nylander brothers are going to dominate, and you're going to pay.
The stars are not going to align, and I have a ton of points in my Tim Hortons account, which has not been a good 3 games, by the way. I'm 0 for 3 over for the past 3 days. But, yeah, definitely not going to happen. Hey, let's shift gears. Let's talk about Flames versus Canadians, a game that I thought was just a mess of a game. It was sloppy for the Calgary Flames, and they won 3-2 in overtime. But, man, what an ugly performance, and especially in front of their own net. Like, just a nasty zone exits for Calgary.
So when I watched that game the day after, and it was weird. It was like both teams were trying not to lose. Not that the teams were both trying to win, right? It was almost like Calgary, they started off the season on a high note. They're doing really, really well, playing together well as a team, making the right decisions, and going for it in all the different areas on the ice. And then they kind of slid off a little bit. Not everybody was doing what they were supposed to do, and they were caught out of place. And they got some bad bounces. But that game last night, it sort of looked like that. They're like, let's not lose. Let's go to overtime.
Well, the amount of time, as much as they were trying not to lose, the amount of times that they coughed that puck up in the slot to the wrong person, twice to Yuri Slafkovsky. And I don't know if you've watched Slafkovsky play at all, apart from that hit that he took the other night. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But Slafkovsky, man, this guy is all over the net. He shot a puck off the post that I thought for sure cracked the post. It rang clearly through the TV, and it was like, wow, did he ring that post? This guy is moments away from being what I would say is maybe one of the next higher tier stars in this league. Another kid on Montreal, and this isn't about Montreal. I don't want to pump Montreal's tires at all. But this kid, Lane Hudson, holy man, he's a rookie this year, and this guy has got some wheels and some talent, and he moves fast and he cuts in and out, and just fun to watch this kid. As much as I hate the Montreal Canadiens, fun to watch this guy, and you kind of see the future of the Montreal Canadiens when you see them on the ice, and you can see that they've got a goalie, and they've got this big center, and they've got this young defenseman, and they're starting to put some of these parts together, which could mean that they're going to cause some teams some grief. But back to the Flames, Matt Coronado he's a guy that you don't think a lot of when you're thinking of, stars in the NHL, or don't spend a lot of time dwelling on Matt Coronado too much. He had maybe the best 3 minutes of hockey that anybody has had this season. And it was about 2 minutes left in the game, and he tied the game up, and the game to push the game into overtime. And to go into overtime, off the draw, he takes the puck, knocks somebody's stick out of their hand, marches down the ice, has a look over at the guy who's skating with him, and decides, nope, I'm done playing hockey for tonight. We're just going to win. Bing, top shelf, game over. And he had an amazing, gritty, tough, determined performance. Wow, what a display from Matt Coronado to win that game, in a game that the Flames probably should not have won. They did not play well in front of their zone. They did not have good zone exits, but good for him. It was great to see that happen. It's great to see the Flames punching above their weight right now, because they are definitely punching above their weight. They are 7-5-1 right now, and what the heck is going on? Why are they 7-5-1? And I'll tell you one of the big reasons, and it is my weekly installment for me pumping the tires on Mackenzie Weegar. Mackenzie Weegar is maybe one of the best unsung, unrecognized defenseman in all of the NHL. And I want to talk about Mackenzie Weegar for a second when it comes to the Four Nations Cup. It is an absolute travesty, nay, a disgrace, that Mackenzie Weegar has not been named to the Team Canada Four Nations Cup team. Why is Mackenzie Weegar not on that team? He moves the puck. He hits guys. He scores goals. He makes great passes. He positions himself perfectly. He will get in the dirty areas. He'll mix it up with somebody in front of that. He'll take no prisoners. Why in the world is this guy not on Team Canada? I don't understand.
Well, it's a possibility that they could draw him in, right? Because when do they have to finalize the rosters? Like December 2nd, I think, is by the time they have to finalize it. So, buddy, if
what are you waiting for?
Well, I don't know. Let's keep pumping the tires and see what he's doing and let everybody know. Like Lane Hudson, you talked about him a little bit earlier, just to kind of give you a little side note. He's the defenseman for Montreal who's played the most minutes on the season. He's playing over 22 minutes a game. And why would you be doing that? Because this kid is talented. Who does he remind you of as a young defenseman? Quinn Hughes out of Vancouver, possibly?
Possibly,
the way that
he
moves?
Yeah. The way he moves, yeah. The speed he's got. Cale Makar Jr., he's got a little bit of Makar in him. He could also be like, you could also compare him to like a little bit of Drew Doughty when Drew Doughty was first coming in the league, with the way that Drew moved. And Drew's not a huge guy, but he's salty dude, and he can get around people. And I don't know.
He's smart, right? Smart player.
Smart. And I don't know about Lane Hudson, if he's a cerebral guy or if he's smart enough, but definitely exciting to watch. Like he definitely gets you looking at the screen and gets you excited about it. So
no, for sure. And then I watched the Calgary game after that one, the Boston Calgary game, where Calgary's down 3-1, and actually it's 1-0. They're down 1-0, and then your friend of mine, Tyson Barrie, scores that goal like 9 seconds after they scored. Then Calgary was down 3-1, but they did not give up at all. And I was purposely watching Kadri to see if he was going to be floating around or what was happening. I think in the second period a little bit, he wasn't coming back as much as he should. But then when we're getting into the third, when the press was coming on, it was like he was in the playoffs. They pushed. They tied that game up, and they sent it into overtime. And Boston's like the third luckiest team in the entire world ever. Like, they play for about 49 seconds a game, and they get 3 goals.
Yeah.
Like in the second period, they got those 2 goals ready, boom, boom, up 3-1. Calgary totally dominated that overtime. Puck possession, everything. And they come down with 20 seconds left. Calgary goes into the corner, an unfortunate Boston bounce, and it goes right out to him. Boston scores. But you said that before to me about Calgary not giving up, and I think that's why they are where they are, because they could as easily right now be 2-7-5 or whatever it is, but instead it's because they kept pushing that they have the record that they do.
Character on that team is so impressive. The character of the Calgary Flames right now is definitely a great example for other teams to play towards, and they don't give up, and it's a scrappy fight, and they're in the game to win. the entirety of the game. And the game they lost to Winnipeg was the exact same thing. They gave Winnipeg everything they could handle. And against Boston, they gave Boston everything they could handle. And a team that maybe critics have said they shouldn't be doing so well and they shouldn't be playing like that, they're doing it. They're playing a gritty, scrappy style of hockey. It's fun to watch. It's engaging. It's exciting to see. It's fun to see Rasmus Anderson doing the goal stare downs. It's fun to see Uyghur just being such a dominant player on the ice. A lot of fun to watch Calgary Flames right now.
One thing I want to circle back to, because after watching the Leafs games, for whatever reason, when it's your own team, you get to spot the injustices a lot easier. But one that just jumped up and slapped right in the face was when Max Pacioretty went in the corner. He hits a guy who had the puck. He hit him in the shoulder. Unfortunately, the guy went down like a bag of hammers and started to cry on the ice. Because he was crying on the ice and he didn't get up, the refs blew the whistle and they gave him a 5-minute major initially. Now, this is the kind of time where I'm going to pump the tires of the refs. This new rule or new old rule where if they do call it a major, they can go back and analyze the play to see what happened. And the refs did the right thing. They went back. They analyzed the play, and they saw, you know what? Not only was it not a 5-minute major or a 4-minute or a 2-minute, no minutes, no penalty. Great call. Not because they just went for the Leafs' favor, but because they actually went through and checked it out. And that was a great, great call. And I think that the refs, it's a fast game out there for them, too. We can yell at them and say all these things. We're watching from high up. We can see all the stuff that's going on, where they're right down in it, right? So a lot of times they can miss it, but there's 3 other guys out on the ice with them. Take the time, pause, go have a conversation about it, right? A lot of times somebody else has seen something, and maybe eventually they'll get into them having the ability to check out the video, even if it's just for like 10 seconds, just to kind of see what happened. But great call.
Let me disagree with you a little bit here. And one good call does not justify the absolute gong show that the reffing has been this year and the line officiating this year. Good Lord, it has not been good. And the major injustices are not just against Toronto and Calgary. It is just not good reffing. And the line officials, the linesmen, good God, just drop the puck. Drop the puck in the circle and let's get going. And I will talk about this every single podcast. Why in the world are you trying to fake out two professional hockey players? Just drop the puck. Get the play going again. Let's go. The officiating has not been great. I'm not a fan of it. And hey, speaking of officiating, let's talk about something controversial that happened the other day. Let's talk about Noel Acciari, Yuri Slavkovsky, Zakai. Let's talk about that for a second and what happened on Hockey Night in Canada.
Well, there's a whole bunch of stuff that happened. When you watch it first, you see Noel Acciari. He played for Leafs. You see him go in. At first, it didn't look like he was trying to hit the guy at all. He kind of just skated past him. And when you slow-mo it down, it looks like he didn't really do any damage. But when you watch it at regular speed, he tried to do it. And so then what happens, they have a discussion with my good friend, Kevin Bieksa. He's cool, calm, and collected. He's talking about, what happened after the game. So what he said was he believed that was the right time for them to kind of go back and, an eye for an eye, retribution. Because what happens is if the refs don't call the game correctly out there on the ice, this is exactly what happens. So Arbor Jacki goes back in, sticks his leg out, and you can see he was doing it on purpose. And Bieksa starts talking about his point of view, what was happening. Very cool, calm, and collected. Enter the ring, Jennifer Botterill. What did Jennifer then do, Rick, in your opinion?
Well, let me start by saying that I think it's great that Jennifer Botterill shares her opinion. And I think it's great that she is excited and emotional about the game of hockey. I think that is something that our game needs. Our game needs people that are excited and emotional and will share what they think about the game. Whether I agree with it or not, I think that's fantastic. And I think the other part of that is that Jennifer Botterill and I will usually disagree. And we will likely not share the same opinions very, very often when it comes to her take on the game. And her take on the game seems a little bit more like a pacifist. And my take on the game is I prefer the physical element and I prefer to see that warfare, that tough, hard-hitting, that kind of action in the game. So Jennifer got excited about what happened and shared her thoughts, and I completely disagree. I think this is a league where we've established that there is an eye for an eye. And if you do something stupid, you're going to pay the piper. And that is part of our game. And Jennifer played the game. She played the game at the national level. She played for Team Canada, and she knows what the game is, and she knows what it's about. good on her for sharing her thoughts and sharing her opinion. Unfortunately, her opinion's wrong. And this is not what the game is. Our game is a game that is tough and rough and violent, and it's a contact sport. And this is what's going to happen. You're going to have instances where people get emotional on the ice and you just take a number. So instead of retaliating in the moment, you look back and say, okay, I got that number 55. I'm going to go talk to you later. But we're not going to do it now because my team's up by a goal, my team's down by a goal. We're not going to risk it. But when it's time, we're going to have a conversation, and you're going to receive a message that's very clear so you don't do something like this again. And that is the nature of our game.
Yeah, and ironically, she was the one in the moment that got emotional, and she let her emotions get the better of her. And I think she lashed out, and I don't necessarily know if she believed what she was saying at the time. It was almost like she was trying to take the other side of an argument. I think she believes that the game, from her point of view, needs to change, where there doesn't need to be an eye for an eye kind of thing. And there's a kind of an aspect to that where you got to look at it this way. There's no way any other NHL player wants to injure on purpose another player. That's their livelihood. That's how they make money. That's how they get paid. The only reason they're going to do that is if you stepped out of line and you pulled a dumb move, and the other enforcers are there to make sure that you don't do that again. I was watching, there was a movie, it was called The Ice Guardians. It was back in 2016, and somebody in there had a quote, and the quote was, how many times did Wayne Gretzky get injured, and how many times did Sidney Crosby get injured? Right, we know back, and check out the injuries for Sidney Crosby, and Sidney Crosby had to stand up and fight for himself numerous times. That's what he did, and he had to pay for it. He had numerous concussions, went out, got smoked, got hit, all these things. Pittsburgh was never known as having a big, tough team or having somebody there to protect him. But Wayne Gretzky, on the other hand, had Dave Semenko Jr., and Dave Semenko Sr., all on the same team.
Marty McSorley.
And no matter what happened, McSorley was there, and no matter what, there was always somebody there to protect Gretzky. So that's why Mr. Jack Guy there was saying, if you're going to touch our guys like this and you're going to make a dumb move, you're going to pay for it. Not only was I was just going to say, not only was he sending the message to Noel Acciari, but he's sending the message to all the people out in the league who are going to play Montreal that you're not going to do that to our guys.
There's a time to pay the piper and there's a time not to. So there's instances where if if there's an incidental play where you run into somebody or you have a big hit or it's part of the game and part of the flow of the game, that's not an eye for an eye moment, or there's not an eye for an eye required because it's a contact game and there's going to be big hits and contact, and people are going to get, you're going to be in front of the net, you're going to be standing in the mixer, and you're going to get punched in the face. And it's part of the game. That's kind of what happens when you're playing hockey. There's also moments that are in the moment, I need to address this, and you need to get punched in the face for what you just did. So you laid out my superstar. He was off the puck. He was admiring a pass. It doesn't matter. It's not something you do. You're going to pay the piper. I'm coming to talk to you, and you're going to get punched in the face. And there's moments like this in this game with Slavkovsky, Acciari, with our Brzak guy. That was the moment where it was time to go back and go deliver that message after the fact. Didn't have to be dealt with in the moment, but the message had to be delivered. And I think, you know what? That's part of our game. It's going to be part of the game. It's an important part of our game, too. It's what separates hockey from other sports. If you think of like other professional sports and what makes hockey so great is there's that code, there's that balance. And that is just one of those moments and didn't need to be a big thing. Unfortunately, somebody took a pacifist route in their opinion, and here we are. And I love Hockey Night in Canada. I remember the original Hockey Night in Canada theme, and how that made me feel as a young guy kind of watching the game, and it's Saturday night at 7:00 and sitting on the couch getting ready to watch that game, and how excited you get with hearing Foster Hewitt on the opening song, and then hanging around to listen to Ron McLean and Don Cherry and seeing some of the player interviews. Like, that was the Hockey Night in Canada of old. I loved that version of Hockey Night in Canada. I like the new version. The new version's good. I like some of the panelists they have on there. I like some of the opinions they bring. They did bring a bit of a different perspective, but I really do miss the original Hockey Night in Canada.
Yeah, the real OG, right? When you get, It was almost, they had their formula, you know what I mean? They had Don Cherry that came in and wanted to teach everybody, how to play the game the Canadian way, and had Ron McLean there as the guide throughout. And they would, like you said, they would meet with some special guests, talk about them. But Don Cherry always spoke from his heart, and I think sometimes near the end there, he was speaking all heart, and there was no filter anymore. And I think that's what happened to him. But you're not going to turn that guy off. That's who he is, and that's who he's always going to be. But we evolve, we change. And I made this quote before, and it's an easy quote to talk about. It was like prohibition. We never used to have alcohol. Now they sell it in the corner store, literally in the corner store. We evolve, we change, we adapt, we get better, right? And so I think they're trying to do that in the new Hockey Night in Canada, and they're trying to possibly bring in a whole new group of people to watch hockey, not just like yourself, Rick, and I to sit there and watch. But I'm telling you right now, every night I sit down and I watch a game with a couple of couple of younger sons are there. My wife's there. Her friends, my friends. There's a mixture of. There's 4 guys, 4 girls, and some kids, and we're sitting there, we're watching the game together, all of us, and we have our own opinions. And it's so funny because everybody's learning too during the game. Like no matter what, my wife, when we have the puck, all she's yelling is "Shoot the puck! Shoot the puck!" And I have to stop myself and I go, "Listen, hun, the reason they're not shooting the puck is because there's not a lane. They can't see a clear." Path to the net. Therefore, they're looking for a path. They're looking for a pass to score the goal. She goes, I don't care. They need to shoot the puck. Right? And then you have these discussions. They're kind of going back and forth. So maybe that's what they're trying to do with the new format, and they're trying to bring in some new fans, potentially. But I know what you're saying. When you have an original broadcast idea, you kind of remember it, and you think about the good times. And there was a lot of good times with that Hockey Night in Canada for sure.
Having Harrison watch hockey now, and he's 4 years old, and we were talking on the phone yesterday, and I think he told you he has a new favorite hockey team. So in the span of 2 weeks, I think he has 5 favorites right now. But I think he told you the Edmonton Oilers are his new favorite team.
Oh yeah, you can't say that too loud in Calgary, eh? I'm surprised that someone didn't come knock on your door. It was close.
I know. I was expecting the neighbors to come over or something, but but he's I think the fact that he enjoys the game and he likes the teams and he knows what teams are playing, and he can kind of identify some of the teams. And if I get excited about the game, and he'll be like, "Ooh, was that Matthews?" and I'll be like, "No, it wasn't Matthews." But he knows that I get excited for to watch certain players, and it's fun to watch the game with other people who are. I would say I'm a pretty intense hardcore fan, and I would understand some stats maybe that others don't, and I dig into the game a little bit more than others do, and I got to be honest, I scared some of the older kids away being such a hardcore fan, and my oldest son is an Ottawa Senators fan to spite me.
Wow.
Not to spite me, but to be funny, to
For
joke as it's, and all my guys have been to hockey games with me, and we've all been to the Leafs games, and it's fun to see people who aren't as crazy or rabid as a hockey fan as you and I are. And I would say you and I are as rabid hockey fans as possible. And if there's a game on, we're watching the game. And if there's 3 games on, we'll be flipping between games. And
Exactly.
anyways, we're carrying on a little bit. It's just so much fun to watch games with family and with kids. And I'm hoping not to scare Harrison off with my hockey fandom.
I find the same way. I've dialed it back a bit because I was probably too vocal in watching the games. No matter what I would say, my wife and my best buddy Shane, whatever I said, they would say the opposite. I'm like, are they doing this to piss me off on purpose? Like, what are you guys doing? And it turned out that I was just getting angry during the game for nothing. And if somebody breathed on me the wrong way, I was angry, right? And then if my team lost, if the Maple Leafs lost that night and the game's over at 9:42, everybody's at the house. Get out. You're out. We're done. No more having a couple of drinks, no more eating food, get out of the house. And everybody feels that way, right? But when the Leafs win, oh my gosh, buddy, we're up to like midnight or later. It doesn't matter. It's a huge either energy kill or energy boost for sure. So I kind of calm down and I've become more cerebral when I watch the game. I record every single game and I'll go back and I'll watch different things because I know that not everybody watches the game how I watch it now. And I want to be there to enjoy the game with everybody at the same time. So I've learned, like you did, like you scared your boys away. I've scared my boys away from yelling at TV, and they're like, oh, we're not watching TV with Dad. He's angry, right? Like literally, it was anger shark swimming all day long because of the hockey game. So I had to kind of dial that back for sure.
I've been watching. I watched the show on Prime, Face Off, and they highlight the Leafs in the playoffs, and I still get upset. It's a season later. and just a show, and I still get upset. And I had told somebody who was watching the show at home here, and I was like, I can't watch this. I had to
Mhm.
leave the room. And that's the kind of fan I am when it comes to the Maple Leafs. I had to physically leave the room because I was so upset about what had happened, and was just like, I don't want to be angry, so I need to walk away, and I can't watch this again. So
But
fantastic show, by the way.
Oh, I love that show, dude. I rewatch it in hopes that they might actually win. I'm like watching. I'm like, they could probably win this time, right?
He's gonna stop it this time. He'll stop the
Yeah,
puck.
yeah.
No,
They're just gonna stop this right here.
no.
No, it doesn't happen that way, unfortunately. Unbelievable. One thing that I did want to talk about is something I actually read a book. Rick and I were talking, and I told him I was reading this book. One of my favorite authors is an author by the name of Malcolm Gladwell, and he's written a lot of really easy to read books, and he's got a lot of great information in this books. And one of the books that he wrote was called Outliers. And in the book, at the very beginning, he has this he's done the study, and there's a disproportionate amount of elite Canadian players that are born in the months January, February, and March. So what he's saying is that a kid who's 11 years old on January 1st, and then there's a kid that turns 11 in that same year on December 31st, there's a year difference between them. There's a huge maturity, a huge, like a physical maturity and a mental maturity in that time frame. So the kids who are more mature that are born in those early months, they get to make the teams, they get the extra practices, they put in all this extra time because they were born in those 3 months. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then he goes on and he shows a couple different teams in the 80s for a gold Olympic Team Canada hockey team. And sure enough, there they are. Most of them are January, February, March. And so then I went, well, you know what? I'm going to go and do my own research. So then I went out and of course, I picked the top 3 players that I could think of. Wayne Gretzky, he's born January 26th. I go, huh, okay. Then I look up Gordie Howe. Gordie Howe, Mr. Hockey, born March 31st. I'm like, okay, why don't we try Bobby Orr? And he was born March 20th. So the first 3 guys that I checked out to see if the rule worked, it worked. And then what I did was there's a website, because I go down these holes to find out, and I do a lot of research. And what we found out was, again, out of all the players that have played in the NHL ever, the top 3 months where they were born was those 3 months, January, February, and March. So blows your mind.
Yeah, fascinating stat, and it's I've got a couple of January and March kids. So you're trying to tell me that they're going to be professional athletes when they get a little bit older?
Well, they
My
have a better chance.
16-year-old loves rugby, so based on what you've told me, I'm expecting him to start playing for the national team soon.
Yeah, obviously. And Harrison's in January, is he not?
He is, yeah, yeah. And he
Buddy,
like
there you go.
we're doing skating lessons with Harrison, and he's natural on skates. Like he does very well on the skates. So it'd be interesting to see what happens if he decides to take that and run with it. I don't know if he will or not. Last skating lesson, it was about 10 minutes left, and he was like, "I'm done here." So he's 4. Happens.
It happens, buddy, for sure.
But and there's this program, and I'll tell you what the program. So it's called Can Skate, and it's run by skating clubs kind of all across Canada. He's in pre-Can Skate because he's not school age yet. But what a fantastic program for kids to be a part of, and they do a great job teaching the kids a lot of good fundamentals initially. So one of the first things I ever saw them do with the kids was they work on dancing on the ice. So they have them do a bit of a dance, and they have them crouch down, stand up, dip their head, move their head side to side. And I was watching it initially, and I was like, I wonder why they're doing that. And then I realized is that they're teaching their balance. And their balance when their head's moving, but their feet are staying still. And they teach them how to stand up and how to move forward and move backwards. And wonderful, wonderful program. If you've got kids that want to learn to skate, or you're looking for some good skating lessons, Can Skate is fantastic. Pre-Can Skate's fantastic. We've got a couple kids in there. Really great way to get kids on skates and have some fun. They have a lot of fun. Just they have some playtime in there too. So really good program.
I agree, Rick. I had Jason go into that program. It is a great program. It made a huge difference for someone who'd never played hockey before or ever skated. Just him and I going out on the pond or public skates, and he wasn't developing as fast as he would like or I would like. So we went out to Can Skate, signed him up, and he did 2 seasons of it and made a huge, huge difference. So from like 2 years ago to now, big, big difference for Jason. So I'm an advocate of it as well. Now,
Hey, we won't.
go ahead.
You got one more thing?
I had one more thing. I just wanted to talk a little bit about, we got a bunch of players that are coming back from injury for the Leafs. We have some decisions that we definitely need to make. One of the things that seems to be screaming out there to us is there's a need for a third line center or a second line center. And somebody who I've been watching from when he used to actually play on the Tampa Bay Lightning, when I would see Toronto play Tampa Bay. There's a guy, he's 5'9", plays like he's 6'1". His name's Yanni Gord. He plays for the Seattle Snakes, otherwise known as Seattle Kraken, and he is a player that I think right now this year makes $5.166 million. But if we make a trade with Seattle and Seattle eats half that contract, he's somebody I think the Leafs should definitely look at trying to sign or trying to get in a type of trade. He's a definite third line center, very, very strong, really good defensively, tenacious, after the puck all the time, good face-off guy. If I were to go out and pick somebody, he would be one of the players that I think that we need to target.
Interesting. It's I'm advocating this season for a trade with Kelly Yarncroc, David Kampf. I think it's time for them to go play for a different team, and not that they're not skilled or talented guys, but I think that their time is up in Toronto and they need to go somewhere else where they're needed. Same with Nick Robertson. Nick Robertson's that guy where he needs to move on and he needs to be playing on a second line or a first line somewhere. It's not Toronto. He's not going to get first line minutes, and there might be an emotional attachment holding on to him in case somebody goes down, Nylander, Marner, somebody like that. But adding Yanni Gord would be great. Having I don't know that 5'9" matters so much with him as a centerman, more that he is a good, solid, contributing third line center, which is kind of what they need. And Tavares in his contract, and he's making a lot of money right now, and it's hard not to have Tavares as your second line center. Very hard not to, based on the salary. But really, Tavares should be the best third line center in the league. That's where he should be playing. But and Max Domi should be centering that second line. And I think there's a spot on the Leafs for a very skilled winger, somebody who can get in the dirty areas, who can score some goals. And I think there's a team out there where you can make a deal for that player and get some draft capital back in the cupboard. And I think that's an important move for them. And I'm sure Brad Treliving and Brendan Shanahan I'm sure that's high on their list of to-dos on their chalkboard in the office. And I'm sure that's something that a lot of teams would want. But I think if the Leafs are going to make that next step, that's got to be the next step. Andy Gord might be one of those guys. I think if you look at Stolarz and the way he's played, Stolarz has quickly turned into one of those guys. Look how amazing Stolarz has played, and in addition to the team and given the chance to play the minutes that he should be playing. Like, the guy's been lights out for the Leafs. He's been so good. Yanni Gord on the team, that's another piece that the team needs to kind of push towards that next level. They do need that big, strong, two-way grinder forward who put a few pucks in the net, but is just terrible to play against. Just nasty to play against, and they got to make a move. They've got to make a trade. They got to get Yarncroc and Kampf, who are kind of soft on the puck. They got to get them moving on, and you got to get Robertson into a team who needs that skilled forward, and you need to bring back some grit and some trade capital or some draft capital.
Do you have anybody in mind that you've been thinking about who kind of fits that role on a team that would need the Robertsons or the Kampfs or something along those lines? Have you thought about that one, or do you have anybody in mind in particular?
I got a couple. So Anthony Mantha from the Calgary Flames is definitely a guy that I would love to see in Toronto. Would be a difference maker. He's kind of like Pacioretty, where he's a little bit seasoned and he's got some experience, and he's got a few games under his belt. But I think he's 500 games or 501 games now. But what he brings is some grit and some nastiness, and he'll get in the corners and he'll have a fight and he'll score a goal. And the guy's got some wheels. Like, he doesn't look like he's got wheels, but he's got some of that potential there. I think that would be a great addition to that team, especially in the third line role, where if you're worried about the team's first line and second line, it's probably a good thing. If you're really worried about the third line, that's going to be a team that's competing for the cup. When you talk about the depth of their three lines, and right now Toronto's got depth in two lines, not three. That's a guy I would add.
Okay. Jared McCann, who was a Leaf for a cup of coffee, who we left out there, dangled him because we were so smart. We thought that if they picked him, we could keep Kerfoot. Anyways, and then he was picked up by Seattle. He scored 30-plus goals, and then there's that other famous guy that played for Toronto who writes books by the name of Zach Hyman, who went off to play. Now, it wasn't that he wasn't playing well with us. That was a bit of a different situation. We just didn't have the money to sign him. We should have found the money to sign him. but that's another story. He went on to play off top line minutes, and it really makes a difference. So I think that those players like Robertson, given the chance, I think he would do well.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, it's been a good conversation, this pod, and I want to just take a second and let everybody know that we are now active on TikTok, good grief, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, on Apple Pod, or like YouTube Shorts or TikTok or Instagram. You can follow us on all those channels. We'll link them into the download of the podcast today. We definitely want to hear from people who are watching. Want to hear from you, and we want to hear some topics that you want to talk about. So if you've got a topic you want us to talk about, we definitely want to hear from you. We'd love to have people come on the pod and talk about topics with us. I think one of the best things about us talking about hockey is sometimes we just start talking about hockey, and it's a fun conversation, and we just gotta it ends up somewhere where it didn't start, and it's a lot of fun. And so we want to hear from you, and we want to hear some of those ideas and thoughts and feedback. And feel free to drop us a line or a comment or a share, and let us know what you're thinking.
Yeah, and all it costs is time. Just time to watch it. You know what I mean? You don't have to watch the whole thing at once. Just watch little bits and pieces. But like, we're looking for feedback and interaction, and we're crazy hockey fans, not just Leaf fans. We're going to have Montreal Canadian fans on. We've already had somebody from the Flyers. We got some Boston Bruin fans lined up. So a lot of different people out there. So we're looking for your feedback, and please watch us out there. Right now, it doesn't cost you anything but time.
I do want to say that we have had a few downloads of the podcast in Germany and Russia. So for the folks who are downloading out in Germany and Russia, we love you. Thank you for downloading. We definitely want to hear from you. And if you've got some ideas and you want to talk about some hockey with us, drop us a line on the social media. We definitely want to hear from you, and let's talk about something cool.
Awesome.
Well, that's all, folks. That's all for this week. We will talk to you again next week.
See you later.
Thanks for tuning in to the Hockey Huddle and hanging out with us through all the slap shots, big hits, and highlight reel plays. Whether you're a diehard fan or just getting into the game, we appreciate you being part of our hockey family. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and hit us up on social media with your thoughts, questions, or hot takes. We love hearing from you. Until next time, keep your stick on the ice, your head up, and we'll catch you in the next period. Take care, everyone.